Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're glad you're here. This is Clean Buildings 101. My name is Jeff Rasmussen. I am the Outreach and Education Program Manager with the Clean Buildings team. Co-presenting with me today is Robert Marino, our Outreach and Education Program Coordinator. And then also with us in the room, we have many members of our Clean Buildings team, including Dylan, Judy, James, Derek. I know Michael is here, and if I missed anyone else, my apologies. As you know, we do record these sessions and then send out the recording and the presentation materials afterwards. We do know that questions do come up throughout the presentation, and so we just encourage you to use the Q&A function within the bottom of the screen. Members of our team are either waiting to answer those questions for you. We do have a Q&A session after the presentation that if you are comfortable and want to bring your question live, welcome to do so as well. But with that, we will go ahead and get started here. All right. The Clean Buildings team, we are part of the Department of Commerce. Department of Commerce is a rather robust state agency that covers many aspects of needs across the state, including housing and homelessness, infrastructure, community services, and then, of course, we are here in the energy division. Today's agenda, pretty straightforward. We'll go through the background of the Clean Building Performance Standards, some of the timelines, and then Robert will cover the overview of the performance standards, exemptions, penalties, touch on incentives, and then we will highlight the areas of support and resources available to everyone. To get started, let's take a quick step back and briefly review the role of the clean buildings in the state's greenhouse gas emissions. Buildings have a profound impact on the environment. As you can see here in the charts, the building sector is the state's largest carbon polluter behind transportation. And even with updated numbers, that comparison is still true, where greenhouse gases from buildings are the second leading causes of greenhouse gas emissions. Existing buildings create a unique challenge as well as an opportunity as the state works to meet its greenhouse gas limits by 2030, 2040, and 2050. The Washington State Legislature recognizes that it's in the state's interest to maximize the full potential of energy efficiency standards, incentives, programs, and codes to keep both energy costs low and to meet greenhouse gas emission reduction goals. Now that all led us to what we see here today, which is the Clean Buildings Law, which was authorized in House Bill 1257 in the 2019 legislation. It was based on the ASHRAE 100, which covers energy efficiency in existing buildings. This is the reference to the standard. Commerce developed the amendments to Standard 100 to conform with the Clean Buildings legislation, which can be found under WAC 19450. The requirements originally applied to Tier 1 buildings, which are buildings over 50,000 square feet, excluding parking garages. Later on, the bill expanded to cover Tier 2 buildings, which are buildings between 20,000 and 50,000 square feet, as well as multifamily buildings over 20,000 square feet. During this process, Commerce was charged with multiple tasks, including rulemaking, notifying building owners, administering the incentives, and supporting mandatory compliance. And you can see all that in our timeline here, starting way up at the top in 2019 with House Bill 1257, and then Tier 1, Tier 2 expansion. Last year, House Bill 1390, which expanded the CBPS to decarbonizing district energy systems rulemaking, and created an updated document, which will show how you can access a copy of that. And most recently, House Bill 1257 provides alternative metrics and extensions for reporting. And so we will be working on that for this year as well. All right, from here, I'm going to turn it over to Robert, who will take us through a big part of the performance standards. So, Robert, go ahead.
All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate your time. So today I'll be reviewing 5 topics. Those are the 2 tiers of buildings covered by the Clean Buildings Performance Standard, compliance pathways, exemptions, penalties, and incentives. All right, so let's go first to Tier 1 buildings covered by the Clean Buildings Performance Standard. A Tier 1 building is a building where the sum of non-residential, hotel, motel, and dormitory floor areas exceeds 50,000 gross square feet, excluding the parking garage area. You can also see a building complex fits into this definition and is defined within the CBPS as a group of buildings interconnected by conditioned spaces on contiguous property. All right, let's go to Tier 2. And I'll summarize this. Tier 2 buildings are between 20,000 and 50,000 square feet, excluding the parking garage area, and includes all multifamily housing greater than 20,000 square feet. All right, so let's keep moving on. So here are the basic Tier 1 requirements. You can see that there's 4 major requirements. First, there's benchmarking, which is taking 12 consecutive months of prior energy use data so that you can compare that to the future energy use of your building. You also need to create and implement an operations and maintenance program, create and implement an energy management plan. And then also for Tier 1, you have to meet an energy performance metric. And that means meeting the EUIT or the investment criteria. And EUIT stands for Energy Use Intensity Target. And we'll talk more about this in a little bit. All right, so let's go to Tier 2 basic requirements. You can see that Tier 2 has the same first 3 requirements, but for Tier 2, you do not have to meet an energy use performance metric, but you do have to create and calculate your EUIT. You have to create the EUIT, you do not have to meet the EUIT for Tier 2. All right, so let's move on again. And this is the compliance schedule, the schedule of deadlines for meeting the CBPS. You can see the 3 blue arrows are for Tier 1. And so there's 3 different years, depending on the size of your building, where you'll have a compliance deadline. And then the orange arrow is for Tier 2, and that's 1 compliance deadline of July 1st, 2027. So building owners must meet this initial reporting schedule and then meet it again every 5 years thereafter. All right, let's move on to the next slide, please. So here I'm going to summarize the differences between Tier 1 and Tier 2 buildings. So for building size, Tier 1 is 50,000 feet and up. Tier 2 is between 20,000 and 50,000 square feet. For multifamily, Tier 1 has no multifamily. Tier 2 is all multifamily housing over 20,000 square feet. Requirements, the big difference is that Tier 1 has a performance metric, Tier 2 does not. And then for compliance dates, Tier 1 has a range of dates starting in 2026, and Tier 2 has 1 date in 2027. All right, let's go to the next slide, thank you. So compliance pathways is what we'll talk about next. All right, so this is our Tier 1 compliance path flow chart. If you start on the left with the gray oval, that's the starting point. And then the 3 orange boxes are the various pathways to compliance. So starting with the leftmost orange box, you can apply for an exemption. And if you are approved, your building, you will not have to meet benchmarking or do the operations and maintenance program, nor do the energy management plan. But you do have to apply for the exemption. Okay, moving to the right, the next orange box is the investment criteria. The investment criteria pathway is good or will be the pathway for you if you're either not able to establish an energy use intensity or you're not going to be able to meet an energy use intensity target. And then lastly, the last orange box on your right is meeting the energy use intensity target pathway for compliance with the Clean Building Standard. A few misconceptions. Not every building is required to do an energy audit. Exempt buildings do have to submit an application to get that exemption. And even if a building has met its energy use intensity target, it is still required to develop an O&M and the EMP, meaning the operations and maintenance program and the energy management plan. We do have a lot of acronyms. I'll try and be clear with those as we continue. All right, let's go to the Tier 2 compliance pathway, which is simpler. Again, starting on the left with the oval, and you have the exemption option. And again, if you are approved for the exemption, you will not have to do benchmarking, the O&M program, or the energy management plan. And if you do those three things, that puts you into compliance with the Clean Building Performance Standard. Okay. So let's look at this slide for getting started. I won't read all of these steps to you, but you can kind of see the order of operations. I will point out, if you would like a copy of the full integrated document of the Clean Buildings Performance Standard, if you just scan that QR code, that will get you where you need to go. All right, so now let's talk about benchmarking. So the steps to benchmarking, I'm just going to say briefly what benchmarking means. And that means taking your energy use for your building over the period of a year and dividing it by your gross square footage and that's how you come up with that's how you come up with your energy use intensity for your building. So the first thing that you're going to do for benchmarking is you're going to create a free account in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And utilities are going to help you out. They're required to. For large utilities, which is utilities over 25,000 customers, they are required to provide you your energy use data for your building in ESPM's automated upload protocol. And for smaller utilities, they can provide that data to you in an Excel document, also using Energy Star specifications. So in ESPM, you can then establish a weather normalized energy use intensity for each of your buildings. You'll then be able to create the energy use intensity target for your building and then compare where you are with the WNEUI and your target that you're trying to hit. Again, Tier 2 buildings are not required to meet the target at this time, only to calculate the target. And just so you know, as far as resources, we have 5 different EUIT guidance documents on our website, including an EUIT calculator. So there's lots of resources out there for you. And we also have a prior benchmarking webinar that's free and available to you, and we'll have that for you in our resources. Okay, so let's talk briefly about the energy management plan and operations and maintenance program. For the energy management plan, that can be found in section 5 of the standard, and it includes maintaining your Energy Star Portfolio Manager account for both benchmarking and energy accounting purposes. You also need to document your energy audits. Also, you'll have a section for training for personnel and a capital management plan. The operation and maintenance program requirements can be found in section 6 and in normative Annex L of the Clean Buildings Performance Standard. And this program ensures that the building's energy using systems achieve their energy efficiency potential throughout their service life. And also importantly, for Tier 1 buildings, the operations and maintenance program needs to be implemented at least 12 months prior to the mandatory compliance date. All right, so now let's talk about exemptions. You can see there's several categories of exemptions. And what I'll do here is, since you can see them on the screen, I won't go through them. But if you have questions, I encourage you to bring them forward toward the end of our presentation. A few things I'm going to point out is that if you think that you are eligible for an exemption, you must apply for it, as I've mentioned. Tier 1 exemption applications must be submitted between 3 years and 6 months prior to the compliance date. And for Tier 2, that's going to be 2 years before, up to 6 months before the compliance date. And if you're approved for an exemption, that's going to be good for 5 years, which is one compliance cycle, and then you'll have to reapply. Also, plugging our exemption webinar that we did earlier this year, that will also be available to you in the resources. All right, so let's talk about penalties. So these are penalties for not complying with the CBPS. And I would say most importantly, we don't want to penalize you. We would like to help you and help you achieve compliance and help your building be more energy efficient. But I do need to mention it so you know that it's there. So penalties for Tier 1 buildings can be up to $1.50 per square foot, plus a one-time charge of $5,000. And penalties for Tier 2 buildings can be up to 30 cents per square foot. So for a building that was 75,000 square feet, you could see that you could have a maximum penalty of over $117,000. And for Tier 2 buildings, the range is going to be between $6,000 up to $15,000 per building. And that's, if you're not in compliance with the Clean Buildings Performance Standard. Okay, so now let's talk about something more interesting, which is incentives. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So for our direct incentives, we have a program for Tier 1 and we have a program for Tier 2. The Tier 1 program has $75 million allocated for it. And if you comply with the CBPS before your building's deadline, you could receive an incentive payment of $2 per square foot, plus an additional amount based on energy saved. Your building must be served by a participating utility, and the building must be at least 15 EUI or more above its target. And the Tier 1 incentive program end date is based on the size of your building. For Tier 2, the Tier 2 incentive program has $150 million allocated for it, and it's going to open on July 1st. And if you comply with the CBPS by June 1st of 2030, you could receive an incentive payment of 30 cents per square foot. Again, your building must also be served by a participating utility. And side note, we are working to hopefully increase the Tier 2 incentive amount. All right, next slide, please. So here, this is an even broader package of funding possibilities for the Clean Building Performance Standard to help you meet compliance. So we talked about Tier 1 and we talked about Tier 2. I'm also going to point out the energy audits for public buildings, which awarded over $14 million and was able to cover 313 buildings, and 236 of those were for K-12 schools. Also, I'll bring your attention to the Clean Buildings Performance Grant, which is currently awarding $45 million, and we've had over 275 applications for that program. And even though some of these programs are closed, they may reopen in the future. So it's, keep an eye out. All right, now I will turn it back to my colleague, Jeff. Take it away, Jeff.
Excellent. Thanks, Robert. Appreciate that high-level overview of the performance standards. And we know that this the performance standards and walking through that can be a little tricky, a little technical, and that is why we are here to help. We do offer a rather robust variety of resources and support for those that are going through the CBPS compliance pathways, and I'm going to highlight some of those here for you today. Starting with the building notifications for Tier 1 buildings. Uh, if you have a Tier 1 building, you probably received a notification, or someone within your building received a notification back in 2021. As Robert mentioned, the compliance for Tier 2 buildings is July 1st, 2027. Tier 2 building notifications will actually go out by July 1st, 2025, so here in less than 2 months. Currently, what the process is looking like is that we are actively identifying those Tier 2 buildings. We've got an amazing data team that's pulling all that information together and then pulling that into our Clean Buildings portal. And once that is there, like I said, by July 1st, we will be sending out those notification letters, and hopefully along with instructions of how to access the portal and the next steps to take. So be on the lookout for additional information on that as well. We do offer a variety of no-cost support. First of all, I've mentioned our Clean Buildings team, many of which are here on this call with us today. We do host a monthly office hours, fourth Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. via Zoom, and we will certainly include the link to that as well. Outside of that, we also recognize the additional support with the Utility Accelerator programs. The Smart Building Center, led by Building Potential, is another great resource. Even though they are in Seattle, they certainly support buildings throughout the state with their no-cost help desk and their free tool lending library. And then we have the Energy Star Portfolio Manager that also offers customer support and training. Now going back to our Clean Buildings team, I do want to highlight the fact that we are here and eager to help move you through compliance and help your building become more energy efficient. And if there are questions, or whether it be general or specific to your building, we encourage you to reach out to us through our Clean Buildings customer support form. Once you fill that out, that comes to our team here. And if it's something that we can answer, we get you an answer as quick as we can. Otherwise, we refer that to the members of our team that are most relevant, whether that be our technical assistance team, incentives, or data. And you can always email us directly if that's easier at buildings@commerce.wa.gov. All this information will be in the email follow-up that I'll send to you in the coming days. And before we leave today, we'll try to get this into the chat for you as well. I mentioned a wide variety of resources and support that are out there. Here on your screen, you see just kind of high level some of those activities that we are currently doing. This is a great example of one of them with our Clean Buildings 101 webinar. We do have several other webinars that are hosted on our website that go into a little more detail on the different aspects of the performance standards. We do host and attend many presentations, conferences as we can, in hopes of sharing the information about the performance standards and being able to answer your questions in those settings as well. On our website, and we'll add that to the chat as well as another resource, we've got a library of guidance documents, additional information as far as compliance goes, the incentives, and so much more. So encourage folks that with questions or looking for some additional information to definitely check that out. All right. And here are some of the previous training series that we've offered here in the past. As you can see, Robert mentioned the exemption training, which was earlier this year in January. We do the Clean Buildings 101 session try to do it once every quarter or as needed. And then, developing the EUIT for tier 1 and tier 2 buildings was one of our more recent ones. So office hours, again, fourth Tuesday of the month. And then upcoming, we have our decarbonization of the district energy system. And my apologies, that date was actually just recently updated to May 29th. So when I send this out, I will make sure that that is updated as well. And with that, I would like to turn it over to the team here for any questions and answers that may have come in through the Q&A. And I'm going to try to pull that up here real quick so I can see as well. All right. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, if you do have a question you're comfortable bringing in live, please feel free to raise that virtual hand and we will bring you on live. We do have several members of our team here that are willing and able to answer your questions. And I do see one that was in the Q&A in regards to tier 2 parking. Does tier 2 include parking? And again, because that is a great question, one that we see frequently here. The square footage does not include the parking garages. And in the Q&A, Judy was able to provide the more details on what that does cover. So thank you for taking that, Judy. Uh, okay. All right. In regards to the notification letter, yes, it will be sent July or no later than July 1st. We are currently working on a draft of that letter. So, all right. And as I'm going through this, certainly want to check in with the team here to see if there are any additional questions that you're seeing that you want to highlight. Please feel free to chime in. Let's see, Jessica, I see your question here. As I'm understanding correctly, that for tier 2, we calculate our own EUIT using our calculator or other resources and our baseline benchmarking data, or is there another way we are supposed to calculate this? And let's see, I don't know if someone from our tech team, Judy, maybe, if you're
Yeah, I
available
was going to
to.
ask if Dylan wanted to take this. So the EUI is the utility bills or the utility information, the actual energy use intensity, the actual energy use that you use, and then you compare that to the calculated target. And there's a pre-calculator in our documents library on our website, and there's also Form B, which is built into the portal that walks you through how you calculate your target. It's based on how you use your building, the building activity types, and tables 7.2A within the standard. And there's a compilation table available also in our documents library that will show you the definitions of the different building type uses and the associated targets. And then there's an operating hour calculation. So the forms are automated and will help walk you through how that is calculated.
Excellent. Thanks, Judy. So, all right. I know we've got a couple more here in the Q&A I'll get to here in just a second, but Jillian, I do see your hand up here. So let's see, Jillian, go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you. I had asked in the chat as well about any differences you might be able to highlight between Washington's program and Oregon's program.
Let's see. I know members of our tech team are in communication with Oregon. I'm going to look to them to see if they can possibly respond to that. They're a little more familiar than I am with Oregon's plan.
So I'm not familiar with Oregon, but if somebody else does.
So,
And-
Oregon's building performance standard, it's modeled after Washington's. I believe, I'm not quite sure the actual main difference. We don't really follow, but what we try to do is when we do communicate with each other, it's just kind of lessons learned, the best way to approach things, not necessarily the differences between the two. But I can connect you with I'll put, somehow I will figure out how to put it in the chat. Department of Oregon's, Washington Department of, Oregon Department of Energy, I think is the one who does, who regulates that, and uh, so you could kind of read more into theirs, but for the most part, we're mainly familiar with ours.
Yeah, Arnold, it is ODOE that's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Jillian. Hi. All right, team, we have a question in the Q&A in regards to computing the baseline EUI. It says, I have 10 years worth of data uploaded in my Energy Star. Looks like the software is computing my baseline EUI from the earliest year, again, 2015. Is this baseline accurate, or should we delete earlier entries to get a more recent baseline? Dylan, I saw you pop on. I guess you got that one, right?
Yes, I can take this one. No, you would not and do not need to delete previous years for calculating energy use. One thing to note for reporting your energy use is you can report a consecutive 12-month period not to exceed 2 years prior to the compliance date. So you can, in your instance, you have plenty of years of data, but you're going to want to pull from that most recent 2 years for reporting purposes.
Excellent. Thanks, Dylan.
Hey, Jeff, if we could go
Yes.
back to, I just put in the link for Oregon's building performance standard, and just doing a quick glimpse and in the difference. The main difference, for the most part, a lot of the standards and requirements and rules are similar. However, it's looking like their definitions of the sizes and their compliance dates are different. Theirs goes to, it's their first cohort of buildings, the larger buildings, it's greater than 200,000 square feet. Ours is 220. And for their tier 2, it's 35, I believe. Oh, their tier 1, their smallest cohort for tier 1 buildings goes to 35. Ours is 50. So those are pretty big differences in this, at least for sizes and when their compliance dates are. So
Okay. Excellent. Thanks for pulling that, Annalyn. All right. All right. Judy, I know you are in the process of answering this question, but if you don't mind, I'd like to bring it live just because it feels like it's one that we see somewhat frequently. I'm not the building owner, but as the tenant, I am responsible for the compliance per my lease. How is this navigated? Oh,
Okay, so I sent the response that I was typing. Building owner is ultimately responsible, and that's who we will hold responsible, but they are allowed to contractually obligate and delegate responsibility for compliance and performing the compliance work to an authorized representative. That can be the tenant, a leasee, a professional qualified person, a property management company, and et cetera. It is up to the building owner to then give shared access to that building, so that then that authorized representative can get into the portal and get access to that building and file the application, do the calculations, and attach the documentation required in the portal to do that.
excellent.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Judy. All right. New question that's come in. asking if we could restate the process of having the utility companies automatically upload bills to Energy Star. And I guess just to I guess clarify on that. So referring back to the benchmarking piece of it and pulling the energy data. If your utility provider is considered a large utility, which is they serve 25,000 customers or more, they will, upon request, download the energy data to the ESPM, your ESPM account. If they are considered a small utility provider, upon request, they'll provide that data to you via an Excel spreadsheet. So, team, anything I missed on that or clarification, additional clarification?
I wrote it in the chat in words and referenced the RCW for that.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Well, those are all the new questions I'm seeing right now. Oh, Dylan, did you have something?
Yes, Jeff, we had a question in the chat that wanted to address because we do get this fairly frequently, and this may do apply to others. A question that was asked was, do properties which have multiple buildings which are smaller than 20,000 square feet, but the total property has more than 20,000 square feet, need to be included in the Clean Buildings Performance Standard? I wanted to address this for everyone. Compliance with our standard is at the individual building level, which means in the scenario where no individual building is greater than 20,000 square feet, none of the buildings are required to comply with the Clean Buildings Performance Standard.
Perfect.
Thanks, Jeff.
Of course. Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate you bringing that one in. Oh. And I do see a new one that just came in, and James is working on that. James, if you don't mind, I'd like to bring that one live too.
Yeah.
And call on you. But it says, could we discuss how compliance with implementing the EMP and O&M, again, that's the Energy Management Plan and Operation and Maintenance Program, 12 months in advance needs to be demonstrated. We want to make sure we are telling our tenants to collect the correct records.
Yep. So for, I want to be specific here, this is for tier 1 buildings where the O&M program must be implemented 12 months prior to the compliance reporting date. The EMP must be developed by the compliance reporting date. And the best way to show that is through your documented maintenance logs. So something like submitting a screenshot or an example of your proponent's maintenance task and logs that indicate that everything's been, there's an example of a task that's been done 12 months prior that includes some of the other conditions in the standard, such as like condition indicators that are outlined. Note for tier 2, you do not have to have your EMP and O&M implemented 12 months prior to your compliance reporting period. You just need to have them developed by the compliance reporting date.
Excellent. Thanks, James. All right. And for submission of relevant forms, can they be submitted earlier than the June 30th due date? And there again, I'm guessing that is in reference to tier 1 buildings, those larger than 50,000 square feet. And the short answer is yes. They can. Early compliance is certainly a good thing.
If the question refers to tier 2 submission, you cannot submit it earlier than July 1st. So
Yeah, 2 years prior to the
2 years
to
prior,
the compliance date.
that's when early compliance starts for tier 2.
Excellent.
I'm not quite sure what the June 30th due date is referring to, though.
Decarbonization?
Yeah, that's the
Only-
decarb. That's the only due date that I'm referring, that I'm familiar with for June 30th. There's no June 30th deadline for tier 1 or tier 2.
All right. See, I don't have a name on this question, but certainly if there is additional follow-up or clarification, yes, I was referring to decarbonization. So there we go.
Maybe submitted. Unfortunately, not just quite yet. Our portal is not, does not have the feature to receive decarb plans just yet. So when that becomes available, I'm sure we're going to announce it through our Clean Buildings Bulletin. So if you subscribe to that, most of new features, new documents, new guidance will go through those means.
Excellent. Thanks, Annalyn.
The only other exception I can think of too is, unless you're talking decarb, the exemption for 50 to 90 will start, early compliance will start June 1st this year.
Great. Perfect. Thanks, Judy. So, all right. Well, those are all the questions I'm seeing in the Q&A, and I don't see any live ones coming in. Again, welcome the questions either through the Q&A or raise that virtual hand. We'll bring you in live. Do we have a link for the retrofits grant? And
I will
have the-
search for the page and I will answer it in the Q&A.
excellent.
Yep.
Perfect. Thanks, Annalyn.
And then just to go back to that question about the June 30th deadline for the decarbonization, I just want to mention that we have a Decarb District Energy webinar, May 29. And I believe Jeff will provide that link when we share these.
Yep, definitely. Okay. All right. Well, again, just a quick check-in with our Clean Buildings team that have been answering the questions in the Q&A. Just wanted to see if there are any additional ones that Phil should bring live, some of the common ones that we see during our various engagements. All right. So, okay. We'll give it just another minute here, and in that time, again, just remind folks that we do have a lot of activities coming up in regards to performance standards. Of course, with the release of the Tier 2 buildings, that'll be out by July 1st of this year, just like I said, a couple months away. Leading into that, we are planning to either post some additional webinars in preparation of that, or create some video how-to tutorial videos, and those will be released as well, or in addition to. So be on the lookout for that. Annalyn mentioned our Clean Buildings Bulletin. That is where we broadcast a lot of our information and our news and updates. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to that, certainly encourage you to do so. If we don't have that in the chat now, unfortunately, I can't see it. We will make sure that you have it in the follow-up email of how to subscribe to our Clean Buildings Bulletin. Our next webinar coming up is on, again, May 29th, which is our decarbonization of the district energy system. And that is Thursday, May 29th from 11 to noon. On May 27th, we do have our Clean Buildings office hours. Again, that's an opportunity to come join us, meet with our Clean Buildings team, ask your questions, whether it be general Clean Building Performance Standard questions or specific to your building, or even walk us through the specific scenario of your building that you're going through on your compliance pathway. And if you'd like to attend just to listen to hear what others are experiencing and how they're navigating that, you're welcome to do that as well. So, all right. Seeing no other questions, hear none. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. There on your screen is easy way to contact us. And again, this is all going to come out to you via email in the next couple of days. Thanks to our team for behind the scenes answering all these questions that came in. From what I saw, they were some really excellent questions. Some that we see, some new ones for us. So again, thank you to the team. Robert, thank you for co-presenting with us today. And for everyone, thank you for joining us. And hopefully we will see you at an upcoming webinar or other presentation. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.